Welcome to Entre News, a production of the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Entre News, the podcast from the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, NFTE, where we bring you the voices of visionary leaders shaping the future of business, education, and innovation. I'm your host, Dr. J.D. LaRock, the President and CEO of NFTE. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm honored to be joined by a remarkable leader whose career and community impact exemplify the values that we champion here at NFTE. Aurora Castillo Magner is the Executive Director of Digital Innovation and Operational Excellence at Santander Bank. She is a passionate advocate for financial inclusion, technology-driven change, and human-centered leadership. Aurora recently joined our NFTE New England Advisory Board and has been a very valued participant in our Hispanic Heritage Month programming in years past. So, Aurora, welcome now to Entre News. We're happy to have you with us.
Thank you, JD. I'm very excited to be here with you.
So let's start right at the beginning. Please share a little bit about your personal journey. What inspired you to pursue a career in financial services and digital innovation?
I came to the US when I was 12 years old. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I lived both in Chelsea, Massachusetts and Lynn, Massachusetts, which are very diverse communities. And I think that shaped a lot of the way that I see the world. I would be lying if I said to you that as a child, I dreamed of being in financial services. What I can tell you is that ever since I was a kid, I was someone that was very passionate about creating. I used to choreograph dances. I used to create flower arrangements, write poetry. So that was something that I knew was very innate and part of who I was. I studied accounting at Bentley and worked for 2 years as a public auditor. And I realized very quickly that that just wasn't being into my passion, which is when I transitioned into technology and eventually products. And I love it because in this role, I am able to understand and analyze customer needs and work with a team to create products that customers can actually use on a daily basis. Every time I see people using the Santander or the Open Bank app, I feel very proud that that's work that I have done. What keeps me in financial services is the ability to solve problems that matter to people. Sometimes people tend to think about banking and minimize its importance, but we know that money is an abstract. It is something that shapes how families live, how they plan, how they dream. And in this role, I am happy to say that I am able to help people not just have access to their money, but also to be able to increase their savings, to improve their finances, to be able to make those dreams come true.
That's really amazing. Now, I have to tell you, I and our viewers, I am not only a fan of Santander because Santander is such a strong supporter of NFTE, I also happen to bank at Santander. And I can
Awesome.
tell you that Santander has always done a really great job at making sure its customers have the right types of products for their needs. You know, Santander, as our viewers probably know, it's a global bank. It serves a really wide range of customers from all walks of life and all cultural backgrounds. As a Latina executive in the financial industry, what personal or cultural influences have you brought to your work?
I think the first is related to not just being Latina, but being an immigrant, right? Coming to the US requires a lot of resilience, and being able to navigate a new country, a new culture, a new language really shaped who I am today. I think that I am able to navigate two worlds at once really well, and that experience gave me a lot of adaptability, grit, and resilience, which is something that I think you need in any role in corporate America. And it's probably one of the reasons that I have been at Santander now for close to 15 years. The other part, being Latina, and I know that thing that people talk about a lot, right? We're very family oriented, very community oriented. And I think that that instilled in me a deep sense of community. And that shows up in how I lead with empathy, collaboration, and really always thinking about how my decisions affects people, whether it's our customers or our employees, and not just focus on the process or the bottom line and how we can make a profit for the organization.
Now, Santander has a group called Conexion within the organization. It's a business resource group focused on advancing Hispanic and Latino talent. At NFTE, we talk all the time about really working to build the next generation of diverse entrepreneurs. And we put it that way because we know that in entrepreneurship, diversity is sometimes underrepresented, and we want to change that. So, as a leader of Conexion within Santander, what kind of impact are you seeing from your leadership efforts within the company?
I always like to tell people that being a Conexion ambassador is actually one of my most loved roles here in the organization. I was actually part of Conexion in its inception as a regional leader and progressed to a national leader the past 2 years, and I'm now what we call an ambassador here. We've been able to do amazing things while I've been here at Santander, part of Conexion. And I will divide it in two areas. One is the impact on community. As you know, we have worked with NFTE, provided volunteers, and we do that with a lot of different organizations that not just only focus on Hispanic and Latino students and people, but on people of color and people in LMI communities across the country. So I'm happy to say this year already we have completed over 250 hours of community service just within the Conexion group. And then within the organization, I have seen a lot of colleagues grow into new opportunities, including internal promotions and new changes in trajectory in their careers. I can give you an example of someone that was part of the organization when we first started. He was a committee member. He was in the branches working as a branch manager, and he reached out to me and some of the other leaders within Conexion that he was interested in transitioning careers, and he has now been an auditor within the organization and has received several promotions for 3 years now. So it's always great to me to see how our colleagues are able to expand and grow and the impact that the Conexion is able to have on them. I will say that one of the things I love about Conexion and being part of just diversity and inclusion initiative, not just at Santander, but more broadly, is the fact that I think I am able to honor the people that came before me, that were able to create space for me at the table, and also make sure that those people that are coming behind me, that are younger, that are starting their careers, will be able to have an even bigger space at the table and that they won't feel like they're the only one in that space.
Yeah. Let's transition from that comment to a little bit more discussion about the different community focused organizations that Santander and that you are involved in. So, in addition to being part of NFTE's New England board, you're also on the board of English for New Bostonians. And viewers and listeners, if you're not familiar with English for New Bostonians, it is a really, really well known, deeply respected civic organization in the Boston area that for a long time has been widely recognized as playing a critical role in welcoming and helping immigrant communities in the greater Boston area. So it is really one of the best known and best respected organizations that I know of as a civically minded person in Massachusetts. Why is that kind of civic engagement important to you?
As I mentioned earlier, I was an immigrant and I grew up in very diverse communities and low to moderate income communities in Massachusetts. So I know firsthand the importance of those types of organizations in helping students, helping people progress and achieve their dreams and goals. And I understand that those organizations expand your sense of what's possible. And I think that that's one of the things that's really great with both English for New Bostonian and NFTE. English for New Bostonian is an organization that is very close to my heart because when I came to the US with my mom and my sister, we didn't speak English. My sister and I were young enough that we had the advantage of being able to learn English in school, but I remember watching my mom have two jobs as a janitor and go to school at night. And it was amazing to see the doors that English and learning the English language open for her, enabling her to be able to transition into a more stable, higher paying career so that she didn't have to work two jobs, go to school, take care of two daughters. So I love being part of ENB. It is a great organization. And similarly with Nifty, being an innovation, understanding the important role that entrepreneurship is playing in the world. It's an organization that I think does an amazing job helping students see their full potential and learn skills that will help them not just if they decide to become entrepreneur, but also if they decide to join a larger organization, right? In my role, I can say that I like to say that I am a entrepreneur where we are consistently developing new products, coming up with new ideas. While I'm part of Santander, the skills that the students learn at Nifty, I think would be skills that could help them at Santander and beyond.
I definitely see how you are an entrepreneur. Just thinking back on what you were discussing regarding your work and your role, and also what you do through Conexion. You talked about solving problems within Santander and solving problems for customers. And that's exactly how we often speak about what entrepreneurship is, that it's fundamentally about solving problems. And let me try to tie the entrepreneurial mindset, which you also just referenced, and the journey of educating young entrepreneurs to Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm so glad that we're in a moment these days where, previous generations, like when I was growing up, I grew up in a multilingual Italian American household. But at that time, the thinking was that parents and schools and society, maybe wouldn't necessarily pass on a different language to children because it wasn't seen as an advantage. But now we know that having a different culture, having a different language is actually a competitive advantage when it comes to entrepreneurship because it's about a different market. It's about a different way of understanding customers and problems. What would you share in terms of advice with young Latino and Latina students who are aspiring entrepreneurs about how they can find their voice, their authentic voice, and can shape their future?
Thank you for sharing your history and backgrounds of being Italian or coming from an Italian speaking family. That is something that I hear a lot when I speak with people that came to the US before in the 80s and 90s and even before, right? So I think it's really important to acknowledge how far we have come and the fact that now I can freely speak Spanish, not just at home, but at work. And it's something that I leverage on a daily basis, being part of a Spanish bank and working very closely with the teams in Spain. My advice to young Latinx students and entrepreneurs is to never see their differences as weakness. Your culture and identity, and that is whether you are Latina, Black, white, right? It doesn't matter. I think that culture and identity can become your biggest strength. They allow you to see challenges differently. When we talk about really understanding problems and solving problems, you bring a different perspective and you are able to see and solve problems that other people might overlook. And bringing a different perspective into every room, I think that is really important. And it's one of the advantages that I've had in my role, that I am able to not just see things from the same lens as my colleagues. I can think about how do we solve problems. One of the problems that we're working on now, for example, at Santander, as we launched a new bank called Open Bank, is how do we make banking easier for people that are new to the United States? And think about how someone with my background who came to the US when I was 12 years old with my mom and saw firsthand the challenges that she dealt with, what perspective I can bring into those discussions to make sure that we make that experience a lot better and simpler for our customers.
And continuing on along the lines of advice giving, entrepreneurship on some level is also about leadership. It requires a lot of personal leadership. And, many of the stakeholders who are involved in Nifty programs often say that one of the most important things that a Nifty program will give students is the self confidence and the ability to imagine themselves as a leader. But we also know that that is not necessarily easy for people who don't see themselves reflected in the types of people who are often leaders today. Now, you're a diverse person, you're a multilingual person, you are a leader. So, what advice would you give to students, especially young people of color, who want to do these things, want to do what you've done, but maybe don't see themselves yet in leadership roles?
I think the most important advice is to not be afraid to try new things and to take the first step. I think about when I was in high school and even in college, right? And all of the fears. And even today, you hear people talk a lot about imposter syndrome. Whenever I face a new challenge, there is a little voice in the back of my head that says, okay, this is going to be really hard. But I never let that stop me. I think that Nifty students are in a great place where they are able to learn from Nifty, that they have access to leaders in different organizations that they can tap into. So always try new technologies, enroll in new programs, raise your hand for new opportunities, even if you feel like you are underqualified or that you don't know what you're doing, because that is how you're going to learn. And you never know if you are going to enjoy something or be really good at something until you try it. Every new skill that you learn is going to build that confidence. And leadership isn't just about fitting a mold, it's really about creating one.
Oh, that's really well said. And last but not least, how do you stay grounded and inspired in your work? You've shared a lot of good advice on that already, but curious about any daily habits or favorite books or writers or mentors who continue to guide you.
I exercise a lot. I try to exercise 5 to 6 times a week. I think that that keeps me really grounded. I find that I am not the same if I don't work out in the morning. And I also started meditating about 5 years ago. And I think that it's something that really helps me to remain centered and calm when things around me might not be. In terms of podcasts and things that I do for fun or to relax, I actually listen to a lot of different podcasts and I have a routine I follow on different days. I love the Oprah Super Soul podcast. I think it's great to be able to learn from different people in different areas, different paths of life. Not just about how you can be a great leader and how you can be great at your job, but really how do you become a more soulful person and live a better, happier life. I also really love reading. I think you can see in my background, JD, I have a lot of books and I have a lot of books throughout my house, but I'm not able to spend as much time reading as I would like to because I have so many other commitments. So I have started listening to a lot of audiobooks. I love Audible. And over the past year, I've actually been revisiting the works of two of my favorite authors who I read religiously in high school and college, both Isabel Allende and Mario Vargas Llosa. So it's been really great to actually listen to the stories. And it's sort of been like reliving a part of my life and the inspiration that I felt back in high school and college when I was reading them for the first time.
Fantastic advice. And I admire you on your workout commitment. I just have decided to try to renew my own commitment to exercise more, but I'm going to have to work up to 5 or 6 times a week. But
It's great. I think once you do it consistently for a while, it just becomes such a habit. It's hard for me actually to not work out now.
amazing advice. Well, Aurora, thank you so much for your insights and your leadership, everything you do to lift up our collective community here at Nifty and Santander's global community of banking customers. You are really, truly a role model for the next generation of innovators. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, JD.
And to our listeners, thank you once more for joining us for this special Entrepreneurs episode celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay connected with Nifty as we continue to spotlight change makers shaping tomorrow. Thanks again for listening.
Entre News is a production of the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. For more information, visit nfte.com.